So we've seen our basic setup, we've seen how we create levels and grids, how we can make a level editor, how we can save our levels, how we can load them, and now we're going to see how we can make a controller. Okay, so our players will have something to play basically. Now keep in mind that this controller is fairly a simple one. Okay, the whole project is just to practice multiplayer and see how you can use UNet to create lobby scenes, all that, okay, and play with other people, of course. So what we'll have in the controller, okay, moving around, of course, jumping, crouching, moving while crouched, firing, grenades, and finally melee. Okay, simple enough. Now let's see the animator, and basically before we see the animator we're going to see the prefabs. We have prefabs for characters, and this prefab is basically the different sprites, and each sprite has its own animator. Okay, I do not have different sprite assets, I only have this. I reused the same character, but I only changed the color so that indicate that we changed the character. Now every character you're going to make and every animation you're going to have, we're going to see a different way working with the animator, and you can see that there is no transitions in here. So basically since it's 2D, there's no need for crossfading animations. So I'm basically using the names to find which animation I want to play or not. Now you have to keep a naming convention, and I think this is simpler, okay, because moving through all this through all these states will have been a little bit more annoying to create new characters. Now the only thing you need to do to work with this with the way we are going to create the system to play the animations is basically have the names and just drag and drop them inside the animator. Now the naming convention we're going to use is this. A idle means AR idle, AR shoot, and melee a knife when you are on air. Ground special, G stands for ground, GM special, ground moving special. Okay, similarly ground idle, ground shoot, ground dead, ground moving knife, ground knife, ground moving shoot, ground move, crouch moving shoot, crouch shoot, crouch idle, and crouch move. Okay, you have the starter project. If you do not have it, go to the intro video and download it from there and check the animations and all that if you want to see, and if you want to add more animations in here, you will use it in a similar way. Okay, just make a mental note of this, and we're going to come back to them later. Of course, we're going to start with ground idle. Let's go to the actual scripts now. Everything except the input handler we have over here, so all this and everything below will also be reused for the multiplayer. Okay, just keep that in mind. We have state manager as always. We have, this is the checkpoints that, okay, and this has to do with the parallax anyway. So basically we want state manager, handle shooting, handle particles, and anim handler. Okay, so state manager goes and updates stuff inside handle shooting, handle particles, and anim handler. Let's go to the state manager. Character stats is a new class which we defined underneath our character inside our state manager, but outside of the class. Okay, it has the bullet damage, how much damage it does with the bullet, if it destroys above the node when you shoot something, and if the melee destroys above, and how much damage you do with the melee. Okay, unit states. These have the exact same name as you can see as the animations, and this is where you need to be case sensitive. And when we want to play an animation, we're going to use the enum for these states. Okay, so we're not writing anymore, we are using these enums. Let's go again back to the top. Let's see our variables. Okay, all this stuff are going to become useful in later. If it's the player, if it's multiplayer, move. If we are looking left, if you want to look left, if you are looking left, jump, force, crouch. When you are going into you know, basically the, let's start, remind me not to stop. Oops. Oh yeah, I could have hit back menu. Okay, when you are over here, you can see that the character is about two nodes height. Okay, if you go into a place like this, that it has the above node is you know, is ground, then you are forcing the character to crouch. Okay, crouch if you are shooting, if you are dead, if you are actually shooting, if it's special, actual special, melee, actual melee. Okay, basically melee, special, shoot. It has to do with the input, and the actual is you are actually shooting at this point. Okay, and actual melee. And override forces is we use this when we want to add forces to the rigid body, and we want to override any other forces that the player is giving it at the moment. Okay, current unit state. If you are on ground, if you have just jumped, a reference to the rigid body 2D, collider, and which layers we want to ignore. If it's dummy, for example, the client on the multiplayer is a dummy player, so it doesn't update the references. And we have some other variables. Okay, ground speed, crouch speed. Ground is basically the idle when you're not crouching. Crouch speed, air speed, jump speed, maximum jump timer. If you can variable jump timer, and the internal variables. References to our other scripts: anim handler, handle particles, handle shooting, and map controller, map control. For multiplayer, we're going to use a sync state. This is the extract, and this is what we're using with sync state. Okay, so on multiplayer, when we want to sync the players, we're going to reuse get sync state. We create a new sync state. We get all the variables and the values we have on the variables we have above. We pass those through the network, and we have synced our characters. Let's close this. On start, get the reference to the map controller. We add on the units of the map controller, we add this, the state manager. Is multiplayer is controlled by the session master. If it's not a multiplayer, then we're going to set up our controller. So we're adding rigid body. We're also adding collider, a 2D collider. Okay, and we also need to set up the 2D collider. Okay, we do this by hand instead of having it into the prefab. We can do this by hand. The offset, I think, is, let's see. Oh, yeah, here's the offset. Now, even if it isn't multiplayer, okay, or if it is, freeze rotation, we have to set up the rigid body. Freeze rotation, gravity scale will be 4, and the drag will be set at 1 for starters. The ignore layers we're going to have is our own game object layer, the ignore layer, and 9 I think is, let's see, 9 is props, grenades and stuff like that. Okay, we add components, so we do not add them onto the prefab. We add the components, and we get them, and we call the initialization for each one. Anim handler, handle particles, okay, handle shooting, all that. Target position will be, we set up basically our own target position, but we also need to basically just make our target position -1, so we are sitting away from this. yeah, it just adds a little bit of an offset on the Z of our own transfer position. This for initialization. This is basically to help with sorting order problems. Start. Okay, on fixed update, we find the current state we are in. The current state will also control what animation we're going to play. Okay, set state, return value, we start with the default one. If we are dead, simply return ground dead. If we're not dead, then if we are on the ground and we are not crouching, the return value will be, if we are not moving, it's going to be idle. If we are moving, it's going to be ground moving. If we are shooting though, override the previous one, and depending on if we are moving or not, you either playing ground shoot or ground move shoot. If you are crouching, the same. Okay. And if you are shooting while crouching, the same depending on if you are moving or not. If it's actually the melee one and you're not moving, play the G knife, otherwise play the G moving knife. Now you might not want to have moving and melee. Okay, it's entirely up to you. Just remove this. You can use only one animation. Same for the special. The special in this case is the grenades. Okay, ground special, ground moving special. If we are not on the ground, that means we are on the air. Okay, the return value will start as air idle. If we are shooting, will be air shoot. If we are milling, air knife, and actual special, ground special, and then we return the value, and we have our state. So this is the animation we're going to also play, is controlled in here inside the set states. Let's go to the top. Okay, if you are dead, only update the anim handler and then return. If you are not a dummy, we said what dummy is, then you call find ground, handle dark, and if you are not overriding forces, we use the movement, we handle our jumping. Else, if we are not overriding the forces, to override the forces, basically we have a timer for how many for how much time we want to override those forces. Force crouch is controlling to its own function, and if we have force crouch, then we say crouch to be true. And finally, we update both handle shooting and anim handler. The ticks are basically the updates. Okay, let's see one by one these functions. That was the fixed update. Find ground. Our origin will be our own transform position. The direction, of course, will be down. We're going to add a little bit of an offset on the Y of our origin, so we're not entirely up upon our own pivot. And we're going to do 3 actual rekas. Okay, one in the front, one in the middle will be what we have over here. Okay, the origin, down with a 0.2 and the ignore layers. We want to do a recast on the right. To get the right position, we just go origin, we add transform.right, but we do not want 1. Okay, 1 will be too much. We only add 0.2. Okay, and direction, distance of 0.2, and the ignore layers. The same thing with the left, but you will have to do, and actually this. Oh yeah, this is correct. Okay, the same for the left, but instead of adding, we just subtract. Direction, 0.2, ignore layers. And if we are on ground, then if middle is true, or right is true, or left is true, then that means we are on ground. Basically, we do one recast in the front, middle, and back, so that if you go into the absolute middle, if we weren't doing 3 recast, if we are on the corners, sometimes your character could stack over there, so you can guess that is a problem. Okay, and that's why we do 3 recasts. Force crouch, okay, it's going to do a recast up of the character, and if it finds something, it's going to ignore the layer. If it finds something with origin direction, will in this time will be vector3.up, distance of 1, it's going to ignore the layer, which is ignore recast, our own layer and all that, and it's going to return true if it finds anything. Or basically if the hit equals true, it's going to return true too. Handle movement. This is how we move. We start with target velocity of 0. We set the y on the target velocity with whatever our own rigid body velocity and y has, so we can jump freely. Then if we are moving, we change the target velocity of x. If we are moving on the left, it's going to be -1. If not, then it's going to be right, so 1. Then we're going to multiply our target velocity x by either our crouch speed or our normal speed, which is g speed, ground speed, or if we are on the air, we're going to multiply this with the air speed. Okay, this is one if statement, another if statement, and this is the else of the first if statement. We add force to our rigid body based on our target velocity, and if we are not moving and we are on the ground, then we change our target velocity x to be 0 and we apply that target velocity. So this eliminates sliding around when you're not moving. Okay, you have more control with this. Handle drag. If we are on the ground and if we are moving, then the drag will be 1, else it will be false. It will be 4. If we are not on the ground, then the drag will be 0. Handle jump. If the player has pressed jump, okay, jump, this over here means for the input. If you haven't just jumped, you say just jump through. Okay, just jump, that means the first frame you want to jump. If we are on the ground, we find the target velocity, we change the target velocity on the y to be the jump speed, and we apply the rigid body velocity with the target velocity, and we turn on basically the can variable jump. Okay, if we haven't just jumped and we can variable jump, we add to the jump timer, and for as long as the jump timer is lower than the jump max, then we basically keep adding force and velocity to our jump timer. If we're not jumping, then current variable jump is false, just jumped equals false. If we are on the ground, then just jumped false, jump timer 0. Okay, simple stuff. We covered moving, jumping, we've seen the states. If we want to override the forces into our own controller, then we have vector3, the direction we want to override it, the force, and for how much time. Okay, we update that we want to override the forces, we add the force to the rigid body, we update the force override maximum time, the force override time we reset it to 0, and we set the rigid body drag to 0. So this is the state manager. Let's see the other stuff. So anim handler, go to definition. We need a reference, the sprite renderer, which has the animator, of course, state manager, and the animator. We initialize this by passing the state manager, and for the sprite renderer we're going to look for the sprite renderer with the character that goes underneath over here. Animator, okay, get component child, we need to find the animator, and actually this it's probably safer to do it this way, since we all know that only the character has an animator. So this makes sure that we get the sprite renderer only from the object that has the animator. Okay, on update or else tick. Okay, remember we tick this from the state manager, and there is a reason for that. If we are not dead, then we find that our target scale, which is our own target scale. If we are moving and the X, we basically override. We override the scale to look left or right, and all that depends on our stage left, if we are set it up to be stage left or not. And we're either going to change the X to -1 and 1. Now, the reason why we are not using, and let's go into, and the hotfix actually worked. So that's a first. Okay, now the reason why I'm not using the flip X is because I have some game objects, some empty game objects that have particles and all that. Okay, if I was flipping the X, the only thing that will change direction will only be the sprite itself, and this object will have stayed at the same position. But what I want to do is change the scale. So see where this the particle for the knife position is. When I go on the other way, when I change the scale, okay, it changes the positions of the other empty game objects. Okay, so it works better this way. Now we have all this. Target, we start with the target animation to be an empty string, and depending on our current state, we simply hard code the names for each animation. Okay, the idle, the move, the idle, and so on and so on. So this is how we play the animation we want to play. And if the current animator state info for the first layer, we only have one layer, is the name of target is not the same as the one we want to have, then and only then we use play target anim. If we do not have this if statement, it means that it was going to play the animation over and over again on every frame, so the animation will only play the first animation, because on the next frame it was going to play the first frame of the same animation. Okay, and a public function, play animation, we pass a string and we say anim play. This is for some special cases if we need. I think I didn't use this anywhere, and yes, I didn't, just in case we need to write, to play an animation like that. So this is the anim handler. Handle shooting is basically what shoots. State manager, fire rate, 0.1 things. I think it looks fine. Fire timer, melee timer, grenade timer or special timer. Okay, bullet prefab, grenade prefab, and object pool. We need the reference to our object pool. We're going to see the object pool probably in its own video. We'll see how much time we have left in this one. Okay, object pool. On update, if we are shooting and we are not in melee, on actual melee, and not on actual special, we're first going to do a ray cast, find hit, and we're basically we want to see what is above us. And vector2.up, let me see. Yeah, it's not above us, it's an offset, and the offset is this. Basically, we know we always want to start with our transform position is a way to orient ourselves, and we have an offset. So I want to get the position and origin of +2 or divided by 2, so 0.5. I have an origin inside my transform position. The offset I'm adding is over here right now. Now I'm going to do a raycast forward towards where I'm looking and see if I'm close to a node. If there is no node close to me, then it's going to shoot. If it's close to me, then it's going to do melee attack. Okay, we have the hotfix on, that's why I get the error over here, because we didn't close the Unity. Okay, if it finds a node, it does melee. If it doesn't, then it just shoots. So we have our origin, we add our offset. Direction we want to be is, we start with vector2.right. If we are looking left, then we turn the opposite direction, so we're looking left. We do a raycast to D, and we return that hit. Okay, the distance, I think 0.25 will work for most cases. So we're over here. If hit is assigned and it's not null, then we start milling, basically. This is the function for the milling. We're going to see it in depth in a bit. Else, if we are not actually shooting, we're going to emit a particle using the handle particle script. Okay, emit muzzle with just some functions that go and play on their own particles. We're going to see them in depth. Okay, emit cartridge, the same thing. We are actually shooting and we fire one bullet. To fire one bullet, we have target position will be, we have an empty object inside our character. Let's go see. Okay, we're going to use basically the muzzle position, or no, we have the bullet. It's an empty object, but we have the references stored inside the handle particles script. The target direction will start at 0. So if we're looking left, then it's going to change the target direction .y to be 180, and the target direction is basically has to do with the rotations. We're going to request a game object from the object pool. This is in place of instantiation. Okay, if you do not have the object pool yet, and you probably haven't seen that video yet, since I haven't made it yet, okay, just add an instantiation first. The transform position will be the target rotation, and the target we're going to hardcode the local Euler angles depending on if we are looking left or right. Okay, with what we have on the target direction, and we're going to open the game object we have requested from the object pool. Bullet projectile, we have a reference for our bullets. We get the component bullet projectile, and we're going to see what this is. We have move direction. If we are moving left, we assign it to look towards the right. And we have our bullet projectile. Again, we initialize it, we pass the moving direction and the owner, which in this case is our own state manager. Okay, so that is a bullet. We saw fine hit. Melee is this. If you are not on actual melee and we emit the particle for the knife. Okay, actual melee true. We reset the melee timer. We have a raycast. You can see the change I do over here. The offset, it will be even lower than what the bullets are. And if we hit something, and if that something is a node reference, then if that node reference is not equals null, then we're going to emit again a knife hit. We have another particle for the knife hit, and we're going to call on our map controller, add damage to node. We're going to pass the node, we're going to pass the owner, and we're going to also assign the damage type. In this case it's melee. Okay, so here is our melee 2. Let's go back again to the tick. We've seen up till here where we have bullets, and if we hit a node, we either melee or fire a bullet. Now if we want to actually do melee, and we need to check if we are the player has pressed melee and you're not actually shooting and you're not in the actual special, then do the melee. Else, if you're not shooting, lower the melee timer, not lower, add on the melee timer, and if it's greater than 0.3, then disable the actual melee. Okay, so this will ensure that you only hit, this basically makes sure that you do not do melee damage on every frame. Okay, if you are actually shooting, we also have a fire timer. We add on with time.delta time fire timer. If it's greater than the fire rate, we reset the fire timer and we say you are not actually shooting. So you are not firing on every frame a new bullet. Same with the specials. In our case will be grenades, stay special. If you're not actually shooting and you're not actual melee, okay, grenade, a timer for the special, and let's see the grenade. Actual special, if you're not inside the actual special, true. Target position will be the same one as the bullet, doesn't matter. Target direction will start as 0. Okay, these are exactly the same like the bullet. We request a grenade from the object pool, target position, target direction. We enable the object we found from our object pool. Move direction right. Okay, if you are looking to the left, change the direction, and you will also want to change the move direction and add vector3.up. Grenade projectile, a new script just for the grenades, and we say init the grenade projectile. So this is the handle shooting. Okay, basically, it's fairly basic. Now let's see handle particles. Handle particles are going to go on to the actual prefab, and you have to assign the empty game objects. Okay, so where you have the bullet, where your bullet wants to start. The muzzle is the particle for the muzzle of your character. The cartridge is where the bullets go away when you shoot. Okay, this stuff over here, it's a particle system. The knife is the particle for the knife, and when you hit something, there is a little flash that goes. At least it should have gone. Okay, it's all in empty game objects underneath this. Okay, knife hit. You see, you have these particles, you have all this setup. You just need to write the script and assign it. Everything is on, and I should have done that. Everything is inside the starter project. So handle particles. As I said, references: bullet, muzzle, cartridge, knife, knife hit. State manager, the muzzle position and the bullet position. Or when we initialize this, we save the local position of the muzzle and the local position of the bullet, or of the bullet parent basically. When we want to emit muzzle, we need to pass if we are looking left or right. Okay, we set the rotation depending on where we are looking for, and change it on the muzzle. And target position, we assign what we have on our muzzle position. Now, if we are crouching, we want to change the target position to be a little bit lower. If we are not on the ground, then we're going to change the muzzle position to be a little bit higher. Okay, and we have the local position. We assign the local position for the muzzle. We emit, and fixed bullet spawn position does the same for the muzzle. Okay, it just takes the target position currently is, and depending on if we are crouching or if we are not crouching, and if we are not on the ground, so basically this is for on when we are on air, not if we are not crouching. So on idle, it just takes the target position we assign from here. So if you are on air, we do this. We move up and down the empty game objects depending on if we are crouching, if we are on air, or if we are if we are normal. Emit cartridge, okay, we do not have to worry with the position of where this will have to go, since nobody will even notice. We just go in the particle and say emit. Emit knife, somewhat the same. Target rotation vector 0. If we are looking left, rotate it around. Okay, local Euler angles, target rotation, and then emit the knife. Emit knife hit, you just simply say emit on the knife hit. And yeah, with this we actually have seen the controller, not the controller, we've seen what goes on the characters. Now we need to see our input handler, and this input handler has to do only with single player. In multiplayer we're going to create a dedicated script that has the input handler, and we'll also have synced variables, commands, and all that. Okay, so for this, player ID is the player ID, state manager, and the camera manager. On start we find the camera manager, we get the states, and we assign it that it's a player. Okay, it's single player, there's only one player. On fixed update, this will just make sure if you fall down, or if you fall off the level, it's just going to place you back into the active checkpoint you have. Of course, you probably want to put a death animation or a death screen over here or something like that. The way I'm seeing if I fall off the level is if our own y is lower than -25. We get our axis, horizontal, vertical, and again we have it as a boolean over here. Now the player ID is if you want to have multiple players on your input. Okay, we have our axis, then you can double click any one of these, duplicate array element, and basically add the player ID. So let's say the second player ID is 1. Okay, this has to do with local multiplayer, and you can go and change the negative positive buttons, alternate negative button or alternate positive button, and all that. Since we only have one player, I didn't bother creating any more of axis because this was about making online multiplayer. Okay, I just left the player ID empty. So since this is empty, it's going to go and find horizontal plus player ID. It's empty, so it's going to look for an axis that is horizontal, vertical, and again horizontal. Okay, we need this inside a bool if we are moving horizontal or not. The other way you can do this is basically check horizontal if it's like this. If it's not 0, then that means you are moving on the horizontal. States.look left, if horizontal is lower than 0, then that means look left. Okay, this is the input. If you are actually looking left or not, it's going to be updated if you are moving. If you are not moving, then it's going to keep whatever you had before you stopped moving. States.move, if we are moving, we update the states.move. Okay, if not SharpForce crouch, then you control the crouch by if the vertical is lower than 0. If you want to jump, then the vertical needs to be higher than 0. Shoot melee special. Okay, I just went a little bit sloppy over here. I just use Z, X, and C. Of course, you should probably set them up with, the input axis over here, or yeah, we have our own. I have a video for your own custom input manager, so you can see that if you want to create your own. Okay, we just need to focus on, let's not focus on this, let's continue. If we are on the actual melee, then we're not crouching anymore and we're not shooting. And we also say to the camera properties, go and add shake. If we are actually shooting, simply add shake to our camera, and if you are moving, then stage left will be whatever we have on our stage.look left. and this is our input handler. Okay, so with this we have everything we need to have to start creating, not start creating, we now have the whole loop. So what I mean with the whole loop is, level editor, create a level, okay, and come back over here into the menu, all that without stopping the game. Start game, selecting a level, and there probably is an error. And this comes for current level text, and this shouldn't have come from over here. Anyway, I'm going to fix that. This has to do with the multiplayer, so we're not bothering with this right now. Start game, level, okay, I go and create a level, I select the level, I'm inside the level and I'm ready to play. Let's see the whole loop once again, even though we've seen it before. To join everything together, we need to go into our manager, Season Master. Okay, we've seen this before. Go to the first part if you need a little bit of refreshing. We are on the main menu and we click to play, to play single player. Okay, we enable the select level menu. We are still on the menu. We haven't yet gone into the single player. Okay, we enable also the back button and we initialize the level select manager. Okay, it goes and creates the buttons. Now, when the player selects a level, it's going to call its function. It's going to set it up. Is editor false? Is multiplayer false? If you're not loading, it's going to load the game scene. When the game scene has finished loading, it's going to come in over here. Okay, after it has finished loading the level, okay, all that, it's going to come over here and it's going to run start solo actual. Level editor, we find it. We need to close the camera target of the level editor because there is no need to have it enabled. We need to close all our menus. Okay, we assign references both to the map creator and the camera script. We actually disable the camera script until we have finished with all this. Okay, so if you do not disable this, it might go and hook, although yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this might not be even needed. Let's just keep it. It doesn't matter. We already set it up later on. Anyway, okay, we find the active checkpoint. We've seen this on previous video. The prefab will start we create a character controller prefab, which is for the single player. For the multiplayer, we have a different prefab. Okay, we load it, we instantiate the prefab and place it on, the active checkpoint transfer position. Rotation, we're not doing anything with that. And we go and say you need the character into the character manager. Active checkpoint, we initialize the active checkpoint for the game, for single player, and basically it just goes and disables the indicator, and we set the camera. Okay, we set the camera to be our own target, the active character. Okay, we enable the camera script. We say to the camera script that we are actually in game, so it can start following around the target. We initialize the object pool and we say we are actually in game. Let's see the character manager. When we initialize this, okay, it goes and finds the character from the character ID we are passing. If you can't find the character, it's going to return. Otherwise, it's going to create a new class of in-game characters and it's going to assign the character ID and the player. It's going to instantiate the prefab of the character. Okay, transform parent under. It's going to reset the local position and it's going to get to assign the active character transfer to be the character object we have just created, and we assign it into the list. This is not needed. Get character, it goes and finds and compares the ID with the characters we have on our list. Okay, it's a singleton, in-game characters, character ID. We've seen this on previous videos. And this is the active characters and characters. So if I want to change a character, I'm going to go into the Season Master, and you can see that I have my IDs, my characters over here. So if I want to add another, I'm going to change the size, I'm going to change the name, and I'm going to change the prefab. Okay, we only have red beret 1, 2. So for right now, I hard code this to be the first character. And if it's okay, the character ID will be the first character. This will be the player ID, although this is single player, there's no point to assign anything over here, I think. Okay, if I change this to 1, then it's going to return the second character. If it wants to play. Okay, the second character has a red tint on top of him. So let's set this back to 0. Okay, so this is how you also select characters. If you want to have a lobby scene on single player too, then feel free to add it. Okay, I didn't want to start adding features that didn't have to do so much with multiplayer, because as I said, I want this to be more about the multiplayer than anything else. Okay, so as I said, we now have a complete game loop. Okay, there's a few stuff we need to see for the actual, game, which is the object puller, which we're going to see on the next video, since we're over 45 minutes. And yeah, for a single player game, you almost have everything you're going to need, with just a few stuff missing, which are basically little details. The bulk of the project for single player is done. So after the object puller, we are basically ready to go and start the procedures we need to have for the multiplayer. Okay, so I'm going to end the video over here, and I think I didn't save. Did I? Yeah, I didn't save. So I'm going to end the video here. You know what to do. Like, subscribe if you like what we are doing and want to see videos earlier, and also help me with, keep making all this. Then consider supporting me on Patreon, and the other way you can support me is, of course, on Gumroad. Now, I will have made all the videos available, by the time I have them made ready, but then you wouldn't have a reason to, to pledge on Patreon, and for, if it's for good or for bad, yeah, we kinda need the support of Patreons or, Gumroad buyers to keep making all this. Otherwise, nothing of all this will have been possible. So, I'll see you next time.